You ever had someone call the cops on you for fishing on your own shoreline? I have. Twice. Yeah. The second time was sunrise. I was just sitting there with my kid, coffee still warm, the world barely awake, and next thing I know, I've got a sheriff standing at the end of my dock and a woman yelling that she controls the whole lake. That was the moment everything snapped. It was the start of a little war I never asked for. But I'll tell you now, I wasn't about to bow down to a fake queen and her self-invented kingdom. Turns out, when you start digging through old paper and even older land rights, sometimes the ground shakes for the bully, not for you. So, you ever stood your ground? Seriously, think about it. Because the only reason this story ends the way it does is I didn't move. Lost Timber Lake, right before dawn. You know that blue-gray sky, just before the sun? The water is dead calm, no breeze, only a thin mist curling off the surface like the lake's still asleep. The boards on my dock creaked under my boots, and my son, Colton, sat next to me, 11 years old, swinging his legs, grinning, threading his line through his little spinning reel like a pro. "Think we'll catch anything before breakfast, Dad?" he asks, voice low so he doesn't scare the fish. "Always do," I tell him. He grins. For a few long, good minutes, it's just us, the clink of metal, that soft plunk of a bobber, a heron yelling way off on the far shore. Honest peace. Maybe the first real quiet I'd had in years since moving here, after the divorce, after too many contracts in too many states. 8 acres of Montana lakefront, a weathered old cabin, a place where silence actually feels safe. And then, gravel crunches behind us. Tires, slow and deliberate, not in any hurry. Colton looks over his shoulder. A sheriff's cruiser comes crawling up my road, headlights cutting through the morning fog. He parks right above my driveway. Heavy, official, way too early for drama. Sheriff Cody Rand gets out, hat pulled low, jaw tight. I already know something's off. Then comes the voice that kills any chance of peace. "Right there, Cody. That's him. That's the trespasser. Linda Harwood, HOA president, queen of Lost Timber Lake, or so she thinks. She's out on her flawless lawn, jacket the color of bad wine, hiking boots that have never met a trail. Hair pulled back, so tight you could bounce a quarter off her forehead. She's marching toward us like she's leading a parade, fingers stabbing the air. "Sheriff, I need you to remove this man from community property. Immediately." Rand sighs that lawman sigh, the one you get when you've already done this dance way too many times. He walks out on the dock, boots heavy on the old wood. "Morning, Evan," he says, careful, like he's handling a live grenade. "Linda here says you're fishing on HOA-controlled shoreline." I keep my voice flat. "This is my dock, Cody. My land. You pass it every time you make your rounds." Linda lets out this theatrical sigh. "That dock extends into community water. Our bylaws clearly, your bylaws." I cut in, "Don't override county plats or state water rights." Her eyes go sharp. "Stop pretending you don't know the rules. I've sent you 3 notices. You can't just fish wherever you want," she says, voice rising, "whenever you want. This lake is governed." "By who?" I ask, and she lifts her chin. "By the Lake Harmony Residential Association, which I happen to lead." Colton shifts closer to me. I squeeze his shoulder. Sheriff Rand scratches his neck. "Evan," she filed a complaint. "Says you're ignoring directives. Says this is, quote, community-regulated space." She's wrong, I say, and I keep it calm. Always calm. That's the only way to win against someone like Linda. But she's nearly vibrating with power she doesn't have. "Sheriff, I expect you to enforce the rules." He needs to leave. Now. Rand's stuck? He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Look, Evan, maybe just step back from the dock for a minute. We can figure it out." "No," I say. Gentle, not angry. Because if I step back, I'm admitting she's right. Linda throws her hands up. "Oh, for heaven's sake, don't make this difficult. This is just compliance." The lake, still as a mirror, seems to wait with me. I reel in my line, slow, the sound echoing. I lean toward Cody. "Sheriff," I say, "this isn't her lake." I pause. She just doesn't know it yet. Cody frowns, puzzled, but Linda doesn't hear. The truth is, she's about to find out everything she's built is sitting on sand, and I'm the one standing right where it starts to crumble. But to understand how we got here, you got to back up 6 months. First time I drove down the road to Lost Timber Lake, September, sharp sun, air like you could bite it. The dirt curled behind my old pickup, the way it does when nobody's driven by in hours. I remember thinking I could get used to this kind of quiet. Colton's in the passenger seat, backpack in his lap, just staring out at the pines and the scattered cabins. It's quiet here, he whispers. That's the point, I tell him. The cabin we just bought sat on the edge of the lake. Old wood, green roof, porch that faced the water. When I first got out, the steps groaned under my weight. Wind brought the smell of cold water and pine. After the chaos of divorce, after years of always being somewhere else, that silence felt like winning the lottery. Spent the first 2 days fixing what needed fixing. Loose shutters. Haul out the last guy's ratty furniture. Colton skipped rocks, gathered pine cones, made up stories about the loons that called across the lake. It felt right. Third morning, though, the spell broke. I heard heels, actual heels, on my porch. Sharp, impatient. I step out and there's Linda, binder in her arms, smile that says welcome, but really means do what I say. She's wearing hiking boots now, too clean, like she bought them just for this meeting. Mr. Mercer, welcome to our community, she says, but it's a warning. She flips open her binder. You're required to complete orientation for the Lake Harmony Association. Dues are $600 due now. Doc approval by Friday. Guests must register. Standard procedure. I blink. I just moved in. I haven't signed anything with an HOA. She sniffs. It's implied. Ask anyone. We maintain standards. Without us, this place would fall apart. On my shoreline, I say, what do your dues cover? She stiffens. Community maintenance, lake preservation, Harmony. Harmony doesn't usually come with surprise fees, I say. She snaps her binder closed. Everyone participates. Keeps things pleasant. You wouldn't want to be the neighbor who lowers the tone. Then she walks off, certain I'll fall in line. Colton peeks out. Who was that? I shrug. Someone who thinks she's in charge. But she isn't. Later that day, a pickup rumbles up. Old man in a battered hat. Arms full of cornbread. Name's Hank Barlow. Figured you could use this after meeting Linda. He chuckles, voice like gravel. She's wildfire. Most folks just let her burn. Don't get caught in it. Not sure I have a choice. Hank says, you always do. But with Linda, the wrong choice costs you peace. He tips his hat, heads out. That night, her words stick with me. Everyone participates, standards compliance. It isn't kindness, it's a threat. 2 days later, envelope in my mailbox. Gold trim, thick card, looks like a wedding invite. I open it under the porch light. Violation, unauthorized dock presence. Fine, $150. Deadline, immediate. I hadn't even unpacked. Colton steps out with a bag of marshmallows. Fire tonight, Dad? Yeah, I say, folding the violation up, but we gotta deal with something first. I stare at the lake, paper in my pocket, not knowing yet just how many matches Linda's about to light. First big shot across the bow. 5:42 a.m. Saturday. I step onto the porch, mug of coffee steaming, when bang, 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 someone pounds a door. Not friendly. A township inspector, clipboard in hand. Complain about unpermitted shoreline work. I blink. Haven't touched a thing. He points to my dock. That's older than I am. He checks, shrugs. Nothing wrong here. He sighs. Between us, someone here likes calling us a lot. I know exactly who. By noon, 2 more complaints. Email this time. Wildlife disturbance. Noise violation. Monday, improper storage. Tuesday, another envelope. Violation. Unregistered laycraft. $120 fine. 48 hours to pay. My boat hadn't moved. Didn't matter. Pressure. That was Linda's real game. Then came the social hits. Colton comes home. Quiet. Won't meet my eyes. Finally, he tells me, some kid said he can't join the fishing group because his dad doesn't follow the rules. Guess who runs the fishing group? Yeah, Linda. That night, sitting on the porch, lake black under a sliver of moon, I felt it, a slow anger, cold, steady. I met people like Linda in my engineering years. Never had a reason to fight. Now I did. So I started a log. Every complaint, every slow car, every note. Photographed, printed, filed. Binder grew thick by October. One evening, sun going pink across the water, I spot Linda in her yard, snapping pictures of my cabin. I don't wave. I just watch. Calm, patience. But patience isn't in action. I see Hank again, chopping wood. You holding up, he asks. For now. She's not letting up. He splits a log. She starts slow, then ramps up till you break. Most folks bend. I'm not most folks. He studies me, then nods. She picked the wrong man. A week later, another inspector, this time for light pollution. My porch bulb glows like a dying firefly. He shakes his head. Somebody's got your number. Off the record, he says. Inspection marked unfounded. I realize this isn't random. This is a campaign. And then the idea hits. If Linda wants to play at authority, I need to build a real case, not just play defense. I dig. County Records Office, after dark. I flip through plats, court records, auction lists. There's a woman there, Helen, soft-spoken, leaves the archive cabinet unlocked when she sees me. She knows what I'm looking for. Turns out, the developer for this place went belly up in the 90s. Lots got auctioned, but a bunch of parcels just sat, bundled, transferred, forgotten. These little strips and access ways. Nobody ever told the neighbors who actually owned them. I bring all this to Mara Jensen, a property lawyer. Sharp, doesn't waste words. She looks at the subdivision map, the bankruptcy filings. So you're saying the HOA's fining you, but it's not registered, not recorded, nothing official. Exactly, I say. She flips through the docs. Evan, you might own more than your cabin. I nearly choke on my coffee. How much more? Depends on the auction records, she says. But if these parcels were never transferred, they reverted to the buyer. And who bought them? Not sure yet, but I will find out. A week later, I get my answer. Mara calls me in, shows me the ledger. Mercer Holdings Trust. My grandfather's trust. My father managed it until he passed. It owns the developer lots, the access strips, everything Linda's been pretending to control. That means, I say, barely breathing, I own it all. You do, she says. Legally. And the HOA? Fraudulent. Completely. That's when the real fun begins. Linda calls an emergency HOA meeting, waving her folder like a badge, flanked by 3 lawyers. She's confident, until I ask her to show the registration. Bylaws, papers, anything proving she's legit. She stutters, insists it's voluntary. One of her lawyers mutters, they've got nothing. I unroll the subdivision map, lay out the court records, the trust documents. Neighbors gather close. They see their rules aren't real, that the money they paid, the fines, the threats, none of it had teeth. Linda panics. You can't do this. You're not even from here. You're trying to destroy what I built. I shake my head. You built fear, Linda, not a community. Then I point to the map, the deed, the trustee ledger. This is my land, the road, the shoreline, even the little strip behind your house. You've been trespassing every time you set foot there. Gasps in the room. Hank looks at her, voice flat. So, we've been paying you for land you don't own? Correct. The crowd shifts, anger and embarrassment mingling. Then Sheriff Rand steps in. He's heard enough. Linda, we need to talk. For the first time, she's rattled. The room, silent, stunned, watches her realize she's lost her crown. The next days move fast. Fraud investigation. County officers take boxes of records from Linda's house. Her car, repoed. Restitution ordered. She owes everyone refunds, with interest. Her husband leaves. The neighborhood breathes for the first time in years. The block actually becomes a neighborhood. Kids ride bikes down the road Linda used to own. Hank borrows my ladder and brings it back. Colton asks, is she gone for good? I nod. She's not coming back. Her house sells in 2 weeks to a family with loud kids and a golden retriever. For the first time, laughter floats down the street instead of tension. I set up a real lake committee. Neighbors vote, pitch in, and this time it's all transparent. No threats. No fake fines. Hank runs road repairs. Betty handles the books. I get to host the 4th of July barbecue. Colton says that's the real prize. One night, after the fireworks, he asks, Dad, did we win? I look at him. then out at the water at the peace that settled over everything. We didn't win, buddy. We just made things right. And that's the truth, isn't it? You don't win by beating a bully at their own game. You win by changing the rules, by making sure truth has a louder voice than fear. Turns out, land always remembers its owner, and justice remembers who stood up when it mattered. Now I gotta ask you, where's the line? When does authority stop being about order and start being about control? Ever face someone who pushed you just because they could? What did you do? Drop your story or your idea of right and wrong down below. I'd love to hear what you think. And hey, if you ever need a reminder that standing up matters, just remember, even a quiet lake can roar when someone finally listens.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.